Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blanks and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Okay, you gotta hit that red button, Jack, when I say go, alright? Alright, cool. Hello, and welcome to the GSMC television podcast. We're part of the mighty GSMC podcast network, and I'm your host, who is at least 6 feet away from you, Howard Fletcher. I'm very happy to be here with you again today. I want to let you know that my pug, Jack, is firing up his iPhone. He's trying to, I gave him a little remote to hit with his paw, because we are going to film this half-assed podcast show for TLC. Hopefully they'll pick up the pilot. Anyway, I'm very happy to be here with you again today. If you're a regular listener, I'd like to welcome you back. You are the reason I'm here. And if you're new to the show, thanks for tuning in. This is a BYOB situation. So pour yourself a stiff one and stick around. And keep coming back, please. I have a big, beautiful, and a word that you heard way too often lately, tremendous show for you today. There's a big global show coming up, like the USA for Africa back in the 80s. No Freddie Mercury this time. Darn it. There are 2 show marathons that are coming up that I'm real excited about on Sci-Fi, one of which I think I might watch. Some might say I need to watch. There's some ratings news that I know you all find boring, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. There's a virtual episode of a show that they're going to put on. It's a show I don't care for, but it's maybe a trend to come, so it's news. We're going to talk about that. There's always going to be breaking news, so I'll drop that in as soon as it comes flying in here. And I have predictions for the next episode of Westworld on HBO. But first, here's some breaking news about Tiger King. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's about Tiger King. So as reported way too often on this show, Tiger King has clawed its way into the national psyche and become one of Netflix's biggest ever original shows. Now, the rest of this was emailed to me by, guess who? Variety. The docuseries reached a U.S. TV audience of 34.3 million unique viewers within the first 10 days of its release. And that's March 20th to March 29th, according to Nielsen estimates. That topped season 2 of Netflix, Stranger Things, which had 31.2 million unique viewers. So that was almost 3 million viewers. Well, it was over 3 million viewers more. The first 10 days in which Stranger Things was on. But Stranger Things 3, which was the all-time most watched series in Netflix history, drew 36.3 million views over a 10-day span when it first came out. Now, I know you guys don't like listening to these numbers, but I'm going to talk about them anyway. Streaming services put a lot of weight on average per minute viewing. So the average per minute viewing, the average people that were watching a minute of Tiger King was 19 million people over those 10 days, March 20th to the 29th. That was higher than Stranger Things 2 again, which had 17.5 million per minute. But Stranger Things 3 is the king with 20.5 million people watching it per minute. Tiger King has become a phenomenon. Undeniably, it's a phenomenon. Now, for those of you who haven't watched it, and if you listen to the show, you've heard about it way more than you want to. But it's a 7-episode limited series, and it weaves a bizarre tale of conflict and crime set in the world of big cat breeders and private zoos. A world that I had no idea existed, and I really don't want to go back to. It roared to popularity. Okay. Now, this is an article that I'm reading out of this email I got from Variety. I never would have used that pun. It roared. However, this writer did. It roared to popularity as the COVID-19 pandemic swept the U.S., with viewers presumably eager to immerse themselves in escapist entertainment that has even added intrigue because it's a true story. Now, this is pretty interesting about how it premiered. Well, I found it interesting. When Tiger King premiered on March 20th, it got off to an inauspicious start. On the first day, now here we go with the average per minute, but remember I was talking about double-digit average per minute viewing. I think it was 19 million at its peak. Okay, when it first started, the average per minute audience of it was 280,000 viewers. And then it reached 741,000 later on that day. By comparison, and I'm not even going to give you the numbers, Manhunter, the second season of Manhunter, and Altered Carbon, both of them started out with higher audiences than Tiger King. So how did Tiger King end up blowing them out of the water? It just came because of buzz and social media and people being locked in their houses. It jumped from that 280,000 per minute on the first day to 1 million by day 3 to 2 million by day 7. And by the end of it, it was averaging, let me go back and see, by the end of it, it was averaging 19 million people watching it per minute. That's crazy. Wow. So according to Netflix, and this is no surprise, Tiger King has been the number one most popular title in the United States over the past 2 weeks. So I don't know what that says about us as a nation. I'm sure someone's going to do some sort of sociological study about it, but people are watching Tiger King, and as reported on this show last week, they are supposed to be coming out with another episode. At least that's what that guy, Tim Lowe, what's the guy's name? Jeff Lowe, whatever. The guy who owns the zoo now, that's what he reported, that they're going to be making another episode, which is supposed to air this week. So by the time you hear this, if he was telling the truth, it should be out. Again, with this guy and anyone else associated with this show in front of the camera, that's a big if, because all these people are liars. So I don't know, but people are watching it and they're eating it up. So as I said, Tiger King 2 has to be right around the corner pretty soon. All right, so that's it for Tiger King. The way this story's been going, there'll probably be more Tiger King before this episode is over, but that's all I got right now. Have any of you all been watching Better Call Saul this season? I have, one of my shows that I like, and it's gotten very dark. Now, Saul does have his light moments. I mean, Jimmy McGill, Bob Odenkirk, he does that character quite well, and so there are going to be some comedic moments. It has to be. That's just the guy who he is. But it has gotten to really, it's blending into, you can feel the fade going toward Breaking Bad, which is, again, I don't like using the word genius, especially when it comes to something as subjective as entertainment and art. In some cases people are artistic genius, but are geniuses. But as far as storytelling is concerned, Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, I always forget Peter Gould. I'm sorry about that, sir. If they are able to stitch together this prequel into the original series, Breaking Bad, which was, some people think have called it the greatest TV show of all time. It's in my top 3. It's not as good as The Wire, but it's good. If they can stitch this thing together seamlessly, that will be I will be seriously impressed, because very few people, no matter how talented they are, can pull that off. I mean, you can ask George Lucas about trying to take something that's a classic tale and then give it a backstory and try to stitch it together. Tough to do perfectly. And I think that Vince Gilligan is putting it together really well. Now, this last episode is one of those, it's just a spoiler. It's just one of those episodes where two characters, Mike and Saul, are caught in a situation where they have to do a lot of talking. It's kind of a two-man show, even though there's a lot of action in it. And so it can be, it's not everyone's cup of tea to see two people who are put in a situation and all they have to do is really out and talk. You learn a lot about the characters. But it was very good. And he has described this past episode as the hardest thing he's ever had to film in his life. Now, the majority of it took place out in the desert because they are in New Mexico. So I don't think that's a spoiler either. A lot of Breaking Bad took place out in the desert. But he said this one was really challenging, and it looked like it might have been. I don't think that was hyperbole there. But he's really doing a good job. So if you have a chance, and if you were somebody who was a Breaking Bad fan and you haven't ever watched Better Call Saul, I would say go do the homework, stream the other one and get caught up and maybe watch this series and watch next year is supposed to be the last one. I'm giving Better Call Saul 5 out of 5 In-N-Out burgers, and I'm from the East Coast, but I do like In-N-Out burgers. Out of my 5-tiered food scale, that's the best you can get. Hopefully that rating will not come down next season. Next, I'm going to be talking about a show that is going to be put together to benefit the fight against COVID-19, much like USA for Africa. I'll be back. Go get a refill.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Okay. Thank you very much. You're doing a great job, Jack. You hold that. You're going to have to edit that too. I'm back. When I was a young guy back in the 80s, Bob Geldof, he was a singer. He was in a bandmate in a English band called the Boomtown Rats. He put together a little benefit called Live Aid. I think last segment I called it USA for Africa. That was the American entertainers that got together after the American Music Awards of all things and recorded that song We Are the World that Quincy Jones and Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson put together. Anyway, Live Aid was a charity rock concert that took place in more than one stadium. It was in Wembley Stadium and the stadium in Philadelphia, Vet Stadium, which I don't think is there anymore. And it was organized, like I said, by Bob Geldof, and it was to raise money for Africa, especially those around Ethiopia, because there was a huge drought that year and many people were starving. And it was a great philanthropic event. But not only that, it was a great entertainment event. I don't think anything like that has been recreated since. And this event I'm about to tell you about isn't going to probably match that either. But it's along the same lines. NBC, ABC, and CBS are uniting for historical global broadcast to raise funds and address the fight against COVID-19. Set to air on Saturday, April 18th from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. One World Together at Home. That's what it's called. One World, Together at Home. We'll see NBC's Jimmy Fallon, ABC's Jimmy Kimmel, and CBS's Stephen Colbert host the broadcast. Okay, no offense against those guys, but Dick Clark and Richard Skinner, who is another legend over in the UK, hosted Live Aid. Now that, to somebody who's under 30 years old, they're like, I don't know who those people are, but they were giants. And anyway, he just kind of stumbled when I hit Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel. Anyway, the show is being produced in partnership with Global Citizen and the World Health Organization, the WHO, who the president is trying to scapegoat, but that's another story. Sources tell The Hollywood Reporter that NBC's New York-based executive led the charge, a guy named Doug Vaughn. He led the charge for a cross-network event with ABC and CBS, and both were quick to sign on. The special will celebrate community health care workers and support the WHO's, World Health Organization's, global fight to end COVID-19. Lady Gaga will curate the special, curate's an interesting word, to use. And it will feature exclusive appearances by, now, here you go. I know you're going to call this the Howard Nitpick Hour, but it's not. But if you're performing at a one-show thing, why you have to say it's exclusive? They're appearing at this one concert. It's not an exclusive appearance. It's just an appearance. Anyway, by Alanis Morissette, Andrea Bocelli, Billie Eilish, Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong, Burna Boy, Chris Martin, David Beckham, what's he going to do, kick a ball? Eddie Vedder, Elton John, Phineas, Idris and Sabrina Elba, J Balvin, John Legend, Casey Musgraves, Keith Urban, Kerry Washington, Lang Lang, Lizzo, Paul McCartney. It's a shame, man. They put this together in alphabetical order. It's just a shame that Paul McCartney has to come like behind all those folks. Ooh. Shah Rukh Khan and Stevie Wonder. Okay, so at the end, it's Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder. They should have just said, and like at the end of like, in like movie credits, when they got a big star, but they don't have a big role, they put the and. They shouldn't be in that line. Anyway. Those are going to be some of the people that Lady Gaga is going to curate. I don't know if she has any more work to do. I don't know what curate means in this case, unless they mean she just sets the lineup, because they already got the people. So I don't know what she's got to do. But anyway, the special will educate and inform viewers about COVID-19 risks, prevention, and response, and feature cameos from the worlds of music and arts, sports, and comedic sketches. Interviews with experts from the WHO, as well as stories from healthcare workers on the front lines of the global pandemic will also be featured. That doesn't seem like it should go there. Some of the world's biggest artists will perform during the special. They must have put this article together like piecemeal, because I just named some of the world's biggest artists, which will include multi-million-dollar pledges to WHO's Solidarity Response Fund. Audrey Morrissey of NBC's The Voice and Songland and Live Animals will produce the special in partnership with Global Citizen. Okay. So if Audrey Morrissey is producing the special, what's Lady Gaga doing with the curating the special? Someone has to write me, tell me at podcasthoward@gmail.com what the difference is. I just don't understand. I think they had to give her a credit in order for her to show. One World is the latest example of how TV networks are helping to support fundraising efforts for various organizations around the world in a battle against the coronavirus. Fox recently raised millions after it teamed up with iHeartRadio for an hour-long ad-free event that featured performances from the likes of Backstreet Boys, Billie Eilish, among others. So that's good. I mean, I'm criticizing the article. I'm not criticizing the event. Well, I do have some comments about the event because I don't understand what everyone's doing there. But whatever they're doing, I hope it's successful. I know this is a lot easier, in quotes, to put together than it was in the 80s. So hopefully this is something that the entertainment world will be able to go to more nimbly, more easily, so we can all help each other in the future with events like this. Anyway, that is One World Together at Home. It's going to be April 18th, Saturday. That's a Saturday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. It says ET/PT, which I'm assuming it means they're going to show it on a delay on the West Coast, but I hope they show it live. These things are much better live. Okay, so since I have some time left in this segment, I will read a couple of emails that I got. One of them was from somebody who sent me my very first email on this show. It's our friend Tyrion Lannister from Westeros. And this is no joke, okay? So Tyrion Lannister from Westeros, and what Tyrion said is, Howard, you still suck, but not as hard. I have been listening. You're right. You are an acquired taste. But I look forward to listening to your shows when they pop up on my feed, if nothing else but to laugh at your stupidity. Keep up the good work. Signed, the Imp. Tyrion, thank you for your listenership. I appreciate it. I appreciate your emails. Keep them coming. I will try to maintain the level of stupidity so that it holds your interest. And thanks for writing in. I appreciate it. I'm going to read one more email during this segment, And this one comes from the C Word Jones from Oslo. We have listeners all over the world, I guess. So at least she says she's from Oslo. Says, Howard, I listened to your show for the first time today. I liked what you had to say about Westworld and Dick Wolf. I really like his shows too. But you need to stop with all the ratings, statistics, and industry jargon. No one cares about that, and I don't want to hear about it again. I like your opinions, though, even when I might not agree with all of them. I'll try to keep listening as much as I can. You really should start talking about Killing Eve. It's a good show. Thanks for reading my email, CWJ. Well, CWJ, thank you for writing, just like Tyrion. Keep them coming. I do plan on covering Killing Eve. It's starting up this next week. I have to finish season 2. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to jump right into season 3, and we will cover that after I get out of Westworld, unless Westworld really comes off the rails. So with that, we're going to go into the next segment. Next segment, I am going to talk about ratings. Sorry, CWJ. But I'm talking about ratings for game shows during this quarantine time. It seems like when you lock yourself in the house, anything goes as far as the television is concerned. So stay there. Go get yourself a refill. Thanks a lot for the emails. Keep sending them in to podcasthoward@gmail.com, and I'll be right back. Don't go away.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Okay, all right. Did you get my good side? Cool. You're doing well. I'm back. You know, something I haven't talked about a lot on this show is what's known as the syndicated show. You know, I did a little riff on Judge Judy a couple weeks back about this big deal that she just signed and how she's leaving the regular Judge Judy show. And that was, you know, that's a syndicated show, and I talked about that. But for the most part, I really haven't trod into those waters on this program, mainly because I watch very little of that programming. But here's some breaking news. A bunch of syndicated shows posted double-digit increases in the second half of March. Now this stay-at-home stuff, this social distancing, this quarantine period, has been a boon for what, in my condescending view, is bad television. Reality shows, these syndicated shows, what I call waiting room television, is like through the roof, man. I guess when people are bored, they'll watch anything. The overall jump in TV usage in recent weeks has extended to syndicated programming. Okay, now this is the stuff I called again from my go-tos, Collider, Hollywood Reporter, and Variety, of course. Many daytime and early evening shows, among them Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, which I love, okay? Guilty as charged on Jeopardy. Family Feud, and the Dr. Oz show, give me a break, have had double-digit ratings growth in the last 2 weeks of March. The larger pool of viewers at home during these quarantines for the coronavirus pandemic has also increased viewership in news magazines like Inside Edition and Entertainment Tonight, and talk shows including Dr. Phil and Live with Kelly and Ryan. Now, again, part of the show is critique. I'm going to tell you. See, Live with Kelly and Ryan, while it's not like my cup of tea, Kelly and Ryan know that all they're doing is goofing and having interviews, giving interviews. That's what I like about that show. But Dr. Phil, man, come on, Dr. Phil.
What a sucker.
Dr. Phil, snowing, y'all. Network daytime shows, including ABC's The View and CBS's The Price is Right, have also hit multi-year highs in recent weeks. Everyone's watching this stuff. A Hollywood Reporter analysis of 16 first-run syndicated shows, a list which also includes the perennially high-rated Judge Judy. Judge Judy's killing it. And first-run shows like Tamron Hall, The Kelly Clarkson Show, 25 Words or Less. I don't know 25 words or less. Judge Jerry, which is the Jerry Springer Show, but he's behind a bench. They all showed daily viewership increases by 14% at the least in the last 2 weeks of March compared to the first 2 weeks of March. So since everyone had to stay at home, they're like, I got nothing to do, turn on Jerry Springer. And let me back that up and wash that down with a little Dr. Phil.
What a sucker.
14 of the 16 shows that the Hollywood Reporter looked at were up in the second week of March. The only shows that did increase was, surprisingly, but not so surprisingly, the Ellen DeGeneres Show, which didn't go down. It just stayed essentially flat. But Ellen is just pulling in those viewers, unbelievable numbers. That's why she can afford to give away tens of thousands of dollars every show, because she's balling out of control. And Access Hollywood, which declined a bit after, ironically, posting some of their best numbers ever in the beginning of March. So, yeah, I guess Access Hollywood, when some people are like, Access Hollywood, Judge Jerry, I'm going with Judge Jerry. Or, let me hear what Dr. Oz has to say about my condition.
What a sucker.
The weekday editions of Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, and Family Feud were the three most watched shows in syndication from March 16th to the 29th, and among the most watched across all of television. Let me repeat that. Among the most watched across all of television. Now, I feel good for Alex Trebek and Jeopardy. And some of you might be according to these numbers, some of you are fans of Family Feud and Wheel of Fortune, and that's great. I am being very judgmental. I hope I'm not offending you. I think some of those shows are inane, but as far as advertising dollars are concerned, they must be raking it in. You can clown Vanna White if you want to, but she's got bank behind Wheel of Fortune. Pat Sajak hangs out in Annapolis. He's a Marylander too. He's not from Maryland, but he lives here a lot now, so I can't be clowning my homie too much as long as he's bringing those deep pockets with him. Jeopardy and Family Feud grew by 1.77 million viewers. So both of them equally got people in. So good for them. Now, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy both have that early evening after the local news shows that they've been running. They're also in syndication. Those are syndicated shows, and they've increased their ratings substantially too in recent weeks. I guess people have a lot to worry about. They don't want to watch the news. They don't want to just be, I'd rather them watch this stuff than some of the stuff coming down on the briefings. But that's all I should say about that. Dr. Oz also had growth in the second half of March. It coincided, of course, with the widespread quarantines, because you got to be locked in your house to check out Dr. Oz. But Dr. Oz also had increased television appearances because he would go to media outlets and tell everybody what you should know anyway. Stay away from people so you don't catch coronavirus. Also, check out my show. We'll talk about it too. His talk show averaged 1.63 million viewers during those second 2 weeks in March. That's a 38% jump over the prior 2 weeks. So he increased by over a third. So good for Dr. Oz,
What a sucker.
I don't know what's going to happen after everyone can go outside, but for right now, Dr. Oz has got eyes on him. Live with Kelly and Ryan hit a season high of 3.68 million viewers for the week of March 23rd. And their viewership increased by about 26%, almost one-fourth in the last 2 weeks of March over the previous 2 weeks. So, everyone is benefiting. Everyone's watching more television. But it's still of interest to see, well, it's interesting to me to see the choices people are making when faced with having to kill some time instead of going to work. Like I said at the beginning, I don't watch that much of this type of programming unless I am held hostage in a waiting room and it happens to be on television, or I'm at the gym. They like to watch Kelly and Ryan. A lot of times I'm at the gym or one of the sets at the gym. The other ones are on ESPN and CNN. And then the set all the way on the right is on Fox News. Among network daytime shows, though, now listen to this. I thought this was interesting that they look at The Price is Right as two halves. Like, I guess you have to measure it that way because I guess some people only want to watch the second half because the Showcase Showdown is in that one. See, I've watched it enough to know that when Big Bob was alive. So in this one, both halves of The Price is Right posted their higher viewer tallies since January of 2016. 4 years, it's pretty good. The View, meanwhile, on The View, it averaged 3.44 million viewers. And that's the biggest audience since 2014. So the takeaway is this. I guess there's a reason why these shows happen to be on the tube most of the time when you're in waiting rooms. Because these are the programs that people default to when they're held hostage in, hostage situations and they have to kill time. The most striking paragraph in this whole report is the weekday editions of Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, and Family Feud were the three most watched shows in syndication from March 16th to 29th and among the most watched across all of television. So as I say many times on this show, I'm not going to hate. I congratulate those who have done well on syndicated programming during this period, even though it's done under hostage situations. And I will give maybe The Price is Right another look. The rest of them I won't look at except for Jeopardy. Let me know what you think at podcasthoward@gmail.com. And next, I'm going to talk about a show that I don't care for. I hate to be a downer on this show with all the stuff I don't like. But they're doing something very interesting. They are going to have a virtual show, and I'll describe what that is because I'm not sure I even understand it completely right now. But it's something new they're doing because of this coronavirus quarantine situation. Go get another one, fill her up, and I'll be right back.
What a sucker.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right. You're doing really well. I hope we can piece this stuff together. You're doing well, Jack. I am back, and I'm going to start off by talking about this show called All Rise. All Rise is a show, a legal show about a judge. There's a black woman judge played by Simone Missick. She was Misty Knight on Luke Cage and Iron Fist and The Defenders, I believe, are the three series that she was in the Marvel Universe on Netflix. I thought she was great as Misty Knight. Really good. That's a character that could get really messed up with stereotypes and Christy Love type, depictions. And she did a really good job. The writers did a good job with that. That said, when I saw these commercials with this actress in this new CBS series, I thought, wow, great. She's going to do something, she got a starring role because she is the star of this show. But The commercials made me not want to watch it because it's about this, I guess, freshman black judge. And on one of the clips they showed on the commercial, she's apparently dancing in chambers, and one of the attorneys, or maybe one of her colleagues, one of her legal colleagues says, we don't dance in chambers, because we all know that black judges can't refrain from dancing once they've been given the robes. It just was like too much. Now, out of context now, might have worked in the show, didn't work for me. I do not tune into All Rise. That said, the legal drama will film its stars using FaceTime, WebEx, and Zoom during this pandemic, or at least they're going to try one of these on one of their shows. It's going to air on May 4th at 9 p.m. You'll have to tell me about it. I will not be tuning in. This I got out of the Hollywood Reporter, I believe. It says virtual footage will be shot in each of the series regulars' homes, and producers plan to use VFX to create the necessary backgrounds. In addition, a cinematographer operating solo from a vehicle will capture exterior footage that reflects the desolate environment that currently exists on the streets and in the neighborhoods of Los Angeles. The entire episode will be shot abiding by social distancing rules and technologies taking place in the world as it exists now. Well, that's pretty interesting. If they can pull this off and it looks halfway decent, this could change everything. Just like last show when I talked about how this animated drama series might be a prelude to some actors not getting work anymore because they can draw the characters or design them on a computer. In this one, you might be able to get a big name star or another actor that would be otherwise unavailable to work on your project because it's on the other side of the world or in a place they aren't and they can't get to it. Instead of them passing on the part, they may be able to film that part where the actor is and then just fill in the blanks. That's crazy. This marks the first primetime scripted series to attempt anything resembling this type of production since the shows began shutting down in mid-March. Late night shows like CBS's Late Night with Stephen Colbert and The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon have been producing virtual episodes of late with hosts conducting interviews via Zoom and other platforms. Okay, we've seen that. I mean, Bill Maher did that on his show, but not what they're talking about doing here. I think they're going to try to construct it so it looks like they're in their regular on-location shooting places. So that's interesting. In the new episode of All Rise, after debating the merits of continuing their work during this time, Judge Benner, played by Marge Helgenberger of CSI fame, I never was a fan of CSI, I never really watched it, but I enjoyed watching her on the commercials. Thought she was attractive. Authorizes Lola, and that's Mystic's character, to preside over a virtual trial that involves a dispute between brothers and a stolen car. That sounds exciting. Anyway, that's a neat concept, and I wish them all the luck in the world with it, even though I don't really necessarily want to see the show, because a lot of these innovations that are born out of something like this that's unforeseen usually turn out to be something that we can go to in the future or producers can go to in the future, and we get some good entertainment, good television out of it. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to come from All Rise, but we'll see. Okay, and since we're all locked in the house, a lot of these networks have decided to change up their programming because they have such a quote-unquote captive audience. And Sci-Fi is dedicating the month of April to airing every episode of two popular shows. One is a show that I've said on this show that I need to watch because if you're a real sci-fi fan, if you haven't watched this, I think you're kind of perpetrating, and that's what I've been doing so far. That show is Battlestar Galactica. And the other show is Xena, Warrior Princess. Not only will each show be marathoned in its entirety, but there will be several special appearances from respective stars, including Tricia Helfer and Lucy Lawless, as well as other fun events. I'm reading from the press release for it. While Battlestar Galactica and Xena are currently available to stream via the Sci-Fi site, as well as NBCU One app, Sci-Fi there should be a will give both shows the major marathons they deserve. Wow. They must have really wanted to get this one out fast. Lucy Lawless, who starred as Xena for all 6 seasons, will host rap sessions after each marathon block, which will be presented by Sci-Fi's Fangirls team, and there will also be special guest appearances. I never watched Xena as a series. I've seen episodes of it here and there when I was much younger, when I would come in from parties at 3 a.m. and just, kind of be a zombie. They are also going to have a podcast called Battlestar Galactica. That's interesting. Hosted by Helfer and writer-journalist Mark Baradin on the Sci-Fi site. So you can get it wherever you listen to your podcast after you listen to this one. That's the caveat. To catch up ahead of this marathon event, I guess they're going to fill people in like myself about what this show is all about. On the April 20th episode, it will feature a major cast reunion with series stars Edward James Olmos, James Kalis, Jamie Bomber, Katie Sackhoff, Michael Trucco, Rika Sharma, and more. Wouldn't you hate to be the more? Yeah, I'm going to be there, see? More. And they're going to do a reading of the pilot episode. You got to be a real big fan to want to listen to that. Anyway, I'm going to watch this. Why did I bring this up? Because, well, I know some of you all are fans of those shows, so you may want to tune in. The other reason is that I mentioned on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, every time it seems like whenever there is a decent science fiction series, a new series that comes on the scene, during the course of the review, if the reviewer is a serious sci-fi head, this isn't, I don't mean a reviewer who just has to watch the show because it's their job, but someone who's really into the genre, they always inevitably say something about Battlestar Galactica. It just seems like most shows that came after this series had a run are derivative of this show in some way, shape, or form. Now, I have seen clips of the show. Now, let me be clear. I'm talking about the show that came on during the 2000s. The show in the 2000s was a remake of a 70s show, which I'm old enough to say that I remember that show as well. But even in the early 2000s show, the special effects just weren't what they are now. I mean, we've really come a long way as far as special effects are concerned. Why do I bring this up? Because the best science fiction shows are not about the special effects. That's just icing on the cake. The best science fiction shows have to do with interesting concepts of tech. You might not be able to show it, but interesting concepts to come up with, and character development. And what I hear from all the folks that I know who are fans of this show, they are all about the character development on this show. And that's why I think I will like it. I'll use a current show that's near and dear to my heart as an example. It's Westworld on HBO. The first 2 seasons, while confusing for some, and has great special effects, the character development on that show was very, very good. You knew who these people or hosts, robots, were. So their actions, the decisions they ultimately made sense. If you don't do that, you just end up with V, which was another remade TV show they tried to come out with a few years back. I'll talk about it some other time on the show. Real good special effects, bad character development. I was sorry it had to go, but it just got canceled because no one wanted to watch it. It was boring. I hope I can make time to see this Battlestar Galactica marathon or some of it, because I'm a sci-fi fraud until I do. Next, I'm up with more breaking news and Westworld predictions right after this. Go get a refill. Be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. Together we dive into the world of sci-fi and science fiction. From episodes of Star Trek, Star Wars, to The Walking Dead, Resident Evil, all the hot new science fiction movies from the backdoors of Marvel or DC. The Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. You'll never look at science fiction the same way again.
All right. You're doing a great job. It's unbelievable. You okay, Jack? Good. We're back. Okay. Disney Plus. It launched back in November. I think November 12th. And so that's less than 5 months ago. And so within 5 months of its initial launch, Disney Plus has signed up to, according to them, 50 million paid subscribers worldwide. That is phenomenal growth. In the past 2 weeks, Disney Plus launched in 8 Western European countries, including the UK, Ireland, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Austria, and Switzerland. In addition, the streaming service became available in India on March 11th, in conjunction with some existing service that they give over there called Hotstar. I'm not familiar with Hotstar. But after 1 month, the India market accounts for approximately 8 million of Disney Plus's 50 million paid subscribers. A lot of people in India. A lot of people who stream, obviously. Later in 2020, the company plans to continue expanding Disney Plus throughout Eastern Europe, as well as across Latin America and Japan. We're truly humbled that Disney Plus is resonating with millions around the globe and believe this bodes well for our continued expansion in other territories, says David Meyer. He's the international CEO for Disney. He added, great storytelling inspires and uplifts, and we are in the fortunate position of being able to deliver a vast array of great entertainment rooted in joy and optimism on Disney Plus. Well, they got Frozen, and they got the Marvel Universe, and they have all those things. So I think it's going to be darn near impossible, no matter how much of a head start Netflix had, for them to hold down Disney Plus, because Disney Plus has a lot of top shelf family entertainment that's international. So there you have it. Now that was some good breaking news, but this is what I really want to talk about. Well, one of the things I want to talk about this segment. They are rebooting Doogie Howser. Now, those of you who are younger than I am, or some of you who are my age, one way or the other, either you remember Doogie Howser or you don't remember Doogie Howser. But Doogie Howser used to be this sitcom that came on, I believe it was ABC. And it had Neil Patrick Harris in it. And it was about a young doctor. This is a young kid who is a brainiac, and he's a doctor. I didn't watch the show, but that's what it was about. Now, they're going to reboot this thing at Disney Plus, and it says the new show will focus on a 16-year-old half-Asian, half-white female lead who works as a doctor in Hawaii. The working title for the show is Doogie Kialoha MD. Now, all right, look, the reboot, let me finish reading this. The reboot hails from writer and executive producer Courtney Kang. 20th Century Fox Television will produce, and the studio also produced the original series. Disney declined to comment to Variety when they asked about this. Again, the original Doogie Howser starred Neil Patrick Harris in the title role. It ran on ABC for 4 seasons and 97 episodes between 1989 and 1993. Along with Stephen Bochco, the series was co-created by David E. Kelly, who is married to Michelle Pfeiffer. I always have to give him props for that. Neither Kelly nor Harris is attached to the reboot at this time. Good for them. Here's my problem with reboots of this type. I like the premise of the show. 16-year-old, Asian descent, half Asian, half white, doctor working in Hawaii. All for that representation, all for the positive female lead, all for everything that describes that show except for Doogie Howser MD. Why do they keep making these shows riding on the coattails of another show in the past that had some measure of success? Now, I understand that you can do that and why they're doing it. I mean, you can give me the marketing reasons for it and the dollars and cents reasons. You know, they figure that people who, I think they figure that people of my age who have kids might tell their kids to watch this show because Doogie Howser used to be good. But I think in the long run, now I'm going to get on my soapbox, this does a disservice to the diversity they're trying to achieve. They can write, I think I could write it. They have great writers on Disney Plus, and if they don't have it, they have enough money to hire them, who can write a show that is good and funny and whatever message they want to portray in this show for a 16-year-old half Asian, half white female lead in Hawaii. They don't need to name her Doogie Howser. It doesn't need to be associated with Neil Patrick Harris's character. It doesn't need to have that legacy. They can write a fresh show. Why they don't, I don't know. Other than it's lazy. And I think we deserve better. As an audience, we deserve better. And as communities that want representation on television, we deserve better. This should not have to be the way series are made with professional writers that you pay. That really would probably prefer to write something original than have to write a Doogie Howser regurgitation or reboot, as they like to call it. Now, if you just had to make a Doogie Howser show, why don't they make it that Doogie Howser, Neil Patrick Harris, they probably couldn't pay Neil Patrick Harris because he gets the big bucks nowadays, but let's just say they could. They could have Neil Patrick Harris be the adult Doogie Howser who has an adopted son because he is gay, which Neil Patrick Harris is, with his partner, and they adopt this son who happens to be quite brilliant, and he becomes either a doctor, he doesn't have to be a doctor, he could be some other type of brilliant, he could be an engineer or something like that. You know, he could adopt a girl, you know, it could be the show, he could be Doogie Howser, the girl could be whoever. They could adopt some Hawaiian girl. You know, if they absolutely need this Doogie Howser tie-in. But just to have this show and say, we're going to do a reboot of Doogie Howser, let's have a person of color and this diversity in there, and we'll have a strong female lead, and we'll name her Doogie. That's just lazy and cheap, I think. Now, that said, watch this show be very good and positive and get great reviews. And the actress who plays Doogie, Kealoha, MD, wins a Golden Globe at age 16. Well, they'll probably cast somebody who's 19 in the 16-year-old role. But anyway, that's what probably will happen since Howard went on a limb like this. But I do not like these reboots. I guess you all have figured that out by now. So if Howard wasn't frustrated enough with this article, the article ends like this. Disney Plus has been mining the vaults of studios now under Disney control for originals for some time now. One of the first original scripted series to debut on the service was High School Musical, the series, based on the Disney Channel film franchise. I never watched that show, but I tend to believe that, you know, High School Musical, whatever, that's a reboot. But here's the other ones. Other reboots currently on the works at the streamer include Turner and Hooch. Okay, I know Tom Hanks is going to have nothing to do with that. Starring Josh Peck, and Mighty Ducks sequel series starring Lauren Graham. Okay, I don't know who they are. And Mighty Ducks is a Disney brand. I get that. And I know there's value in brand. I took marketing. I know that. But I just think that you could write us something about a hockey team and you could call it something else. Just, you know, have some creativity. Let Mighty Ducks be something you show reruns of. And a Lizzie McGuire sequel series is also in the works. But behind the scenes issues have put that on hold. I wonder if those behind the scenes issues could be that it's a dumbass idea. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, had to get that one off my chest. Let me know what you think. Please email me at podcasthoward@gmail.com and let me know if you think I'm being too hard on these reboots. And let me know your opinion on these reboots that they just revamp and make the character some group that they think represents some sort of type of diversity. Because as somebody who is a member of the Black American community myself, it frustrates me when they just decide to paint a superhero character black and say, now we're going to make this character black, rather than writing a backstory for a Black American who happens to have superpowers. Can't we have our origin story and not have to just revamp Peter Parker's origin story or something else? I just don't understand that. It's lazy. It's lazy. And we can do better than that. Anyway, next, I'm going to give you my predictions for Westworld. They're not lazy at Westworld. Although I'm not completely happy about how this season is going, the writing on Westworld is 5 times better than Doogie Kealoha MD. I'll tell you that much. I'll be right back, and you're doing great, Jack. Go get a drink.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
All right. I am back, and we are going to talk about Westworld. I've calmed down now, so we can have a good conversation. What I did for this prediction segment for the next episode, or for the rest of the series, I just kind of boiled this down to 5 questions that we still have unanswered, and I'll tell you my take on them. And again, I'd like you to write in and let me know your takes. First question is, what does Dolores want with Caleb exactly? Because she recruited him, I think, in episode 3, and you see he helped her carry out her little kidnap switcheroo plan in the party. But is she just playing games with him? Or does she genuinely want to help him break free of his computer-generated fate? I kind of believe it's the former. Now, as we all know who watch the show, at least by now, etymology means a lot in this show. They like to name characters and have some sort of meaning to their names. In Hebrew, Caleb means a faithful dog, according to my highly skillful Google research. So if that's any kind of clue, I think Dolores chose him because of his military training. He knows how to follow orders, carry out plans. His story has already been determined by Rehoboth, in which it says he's a loser. He has a dead-end fate. He's going to ultimately commit suicide. So I believe that she saw him as somebody who's highly malleable in her hands. Now, if we find out that this whole thing was planned out from a long time beforehand, then I'm wrong. But I think after he helped her get away from the ambulance and the Uber crime guys, that she looked him up and she thought, hey, this guy can help me with my plan. And so I think that's what she's doing. My next question is, have we seen the last of Stubbs? Because when we last saw Stubbs, or as some people like to call him, Chubbs, he was fighting with Dolores. It was a highly entertaining, eyes wide shut sex party fight. I thought that was one of the better action scenes of the season. And Dolores threw Stubbs off of a balcony. It was a 1-story balcony. We didn't see him land. I don't think it was a fatal fall. And he'll surely have more to do. He already had a bruised shoulder, which, oh, by the way, I didn't say last episode. I didn't understand the reason for bringing up the shoulder injury other than giving Stubbs some sort of excuse for not being able to hang with Dolores, which I thought was weak. I think Dolores would have waxed him anyway, so I don't know why they had to have him have a shoulder injury and also be worn out from swimming, but I guess the writers felt that was necessary. I think Stubbs needs to have an axe in order to be intimidating. Without an axe, he's just useless. But with Bernard captured at the end of the episode, I would think that it's going to be up to Stubbs to save the day if his motor functions haven't been too wrecked by the fall. I don't think they have. So I think we're going to find Stubbs tracking down Bernard and somehow saving that particular day. My third question is, will William, the man in black, now the man in white, ever be put out of his misery? Well, it seems like poetic justice that William ended up trapped in his crazy mind maze. And the architect of that mind maze was one of the robots that he tortured for so many years. But I don't think this is the last of William. As a matter of fact, we know it's not if the trailers before the season are accurate, because there were some scenes with Ed Harris in it that we haven't seen yet. So I'm assuming that we haven't seen the last of him. Plus, Dolores had a reason for pricking him in his neck, which we saw right before they took him away to the funny farm. Now, I have a tinfoil theory about that. Here's my tinfoil theory, is that, as I said last episode, I think that bicolored red and gray ball that we saw when Dolores woke up is the Man in Black's control unit, one that has been made by Dolores from the information that she got out of the forge. She read his book. I don't think that's Bernard's. People think that's Bernard's little ball. I think she created Bernard's control unit at the house. And that's why she had to run a fidelity test on him at the end of last season, because she needed to know if she got it right. And so that's what that is. I don't think you need to run a fidelity test on a control unit if you're just transplanting it. That's my expert opinion about host control units. Also, when Dolores woke up in that episode and she saw the pearl, she said, why'd you bring him? He tried to kill us all. Bernard really never did that. I mean, he did flood the forge, but he also killed Dolores when she tried to close the door of the Valley Beyond. I don't think she was referring to Bernard. I think she was referring to the Man in Black when she looked at that ball. We will see. My fourth question is, who isn't Dolores? Okay, now we know after this last episode that every host we have seen besides Bernard is Dolores. So that would include Martin Gibbs, the head of security, Liam Security. That would include Masashi, who's now serving as the leader of the Yakuza in Singapore, and that would include Dolores Prime. So we have 3 of those balls accounted for, but I don't think those are the balls that were in Dolores' purse. Again, I think Dolores is going to be revealed that Dolores has the ability to create control units in that lab at the house. So I think that she was able to copy her own control unit and put them in those other host bodies. And the ones that she took out of the park we still don't know who they are. They haven't been inserted in any host bodies, or if they have been, they haven't been introduced to the audience yet. We saw a flashback of a Charlotte Hale body being spun up in that house. And if she just had the Charlotte, maybe, I don't know if when you open up somebody's head to take the ball out, it just totally destroys it. That's what I believe. So I believe that Dolores went there. She made a body of herself, and she made another Charlotte Hale body, and she had Bernard made. She programmed Bernard to take her control unit out, make the copies, put her control unit, the copies, one in her regular body, one in Charlotte Hale's body, and one in the Masashi body, who, oh, by the way, well, I have some nitpicks. I'll get to those after my 5th question. Here's my 5th question. Can anyone stop Dolores since Maeve failed? Because Maeve, obviously she couldn't control Dolores or Masashi. She could have frozen him, but she couldn't do it. So I think what we're going to come down to is a Dolores versus Dolores scene in this series, because they don't have a hive mind. It seems that they don't talk to each other telepathically. I think they're all independent personalities based on a control unit, and I think through their different interactions, they're going to find that they're going to be in conflict with one another eventually. So that's my guess about that. Here are my little nitpicks. One was with that bank that they snuck into to do to steal Liam's money. Yeah, okay, you have to have that blood encryption key to get into the bank, but they don't have a photo ID. They didn't have an image of that guy that would come up on the tablet and they could say, hey, you're not the guy. It just seems like bad security. They should at least have a photo. Secondly, and I mentioned this last episode, I don't understand why Stubbs was drinking beer, but, he was drinking so much beer, Bernard had to bring him some more back, and I just didn't understand why that happened. And finally, I'm not a Yakuza expert, but I think it's safe to say it's hard to, take over the Yakuza in 90 days, which we're led to have to believe that Masashi was able to do, because she didn't, that body he's in looks like Masashi. It doesn't look like the guy who used to be the head of the Yakuza. So we have to believe that somehow this badass dude walked up into Singapore and took over one of the biggest, baddest gangs in the world. I'm not saying it can't be done, but 90 days, that's pretty darn fast. And that's it for my predictions for Westworld this week. I want to thank all of you for listening. If you listened to this whole episode, God bless you. I appreciate you listening. I hope you come back next week. Thanks for listening to the GSMC Television Podcast. We're part of the mighty GSMC Podcast Network. I want you to go right now to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating. Please give me a review. Mention my name in the review. I would appreciate that. Email me at podcasthoward@gmail.com. Let me know what you think about the show. I'm open to all suggestions. So until we meet again, stay safe, stay at home, stay healthy, and tune in next week. Same pug time, same pug channel. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.